Last night, Donald Trump delivered an address to the joint session of Congress, and it was everything we expected it to be. It was vengeful. It was unhinged. It was inarticulate. It was weird. It was angry. And it was trying to misdirect us. Donald Trump knows that prices are higher, that there is more chaos. People are losing their jobs by the hundreds of thousands. The Dow is down by thousands of points. So he has to misdirect us. But someone who is not allowing that to happen in response to Donald Trump's speech was Senator Bernie Sanders, who delivered a response I found to be absolutely perfect, not only because it was on our message, but it called out the failures in the lies of his. Now, I spent some time last night at the KPL talking with members of Congress. We are going to check out some of those clips, but first we got to check out Senator Bernie Sanders.
And let's be clear. Not only did Trump fail to talk about some of the most important issues facing the working class of America, but the solutions, in quote, he proposed would only make a bad situation even worse. Yep, I did hear Trump talk tonight about some tax breaks for working families in terms of not taxing tips, not taxing Social Security, and not taxing overtime. Fine. But that is chump change compared to the benefits he's going to give to the 1%, and it doesn't tell the whole story about his tax policies. According to a recent study by the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, if all of Trump's so-called America First policies are enacted, including his tariffs, which he spoke a lot about tonight, the bottom 95% of Americans will see their taxes go up, while the richest 5% in our country will see their taxes go down, way down. Tonight, in so many words, Trump urged Congress to pass his big, beautiful budget. Do you know what's really in it? This budget would cut Medicaid by $880 billion. Oh, I guess Trump forgot to talk about that. $880 billion cut in Medicaid. According to one estimate, it means that up to 36 million Americans, including millions of children, would be thrown off the health insurance they have. Hey, a 90-minute speech tonight, not one word about throwing millions of kids off of the health insurance they have. When you cut Medicaid drastically, it means that nursing homes that receive 2/3 of their funding from Medicaid will either have to shut down, lay off workers, or significantly scale back the services they provide seniors. Gee, I didn't hear that from Trump tonight either. It would be a devastating blow, these cuts to Medicaid, for the 32 million Americans who get their health care at community health centers. And it's not just Medicaid that Trump's budget would cut. It would also cut nutrition assistance by at least $230 billion. Now, I want you to think about that for a moment. And can you imagine? The billionaire class, people who can support their families, some of these guys have tens of billions of dollars, support their families for the next 10 generations, 50 generations. People who live in incredible opulence. People who own their own jet planes, they own their own private islands, they own their own spaceships, trying to get tax breaks by taking food out of the mouths of low-income kids. That truly is disgusting. What we are seeing is the Robin Hood principle in reverse, taking from the poor and giving to the rich and the very, very rich. And here is something else Trump has been doing. For the past several weeks, he and his good friend Elon Musk, who is up there in the audience tonight, have been throwing hundreds of thousands of federal employees off their jobs. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, that's too bad, but that's the federal government, not me, it's not me, it's just those guys who work for the federal government. But I want you to think about this. Think about it for a moment. If Musk and his friends can arbitrarily throw federal workers out on the street today, what do you think that Musk and his fellow billionaires will be doing tomorrow when artificial intelligence and robotics explode in this country. Do you think they'll give a damn about you and your families? No, they will treat you exactly the way they're treating federal employees today. You will be out on the street as well. But it is not only absurd domestic policies that we've got to fight. For the first time in our 250-year history, we have a president who is turning his back on democracy and allying us with authoritarianism. No, we must not abandon the people of Ukraine who were invaded by the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. We must always stand for democracy, not dictatorship. Let me be very clear. Regardless of where Trump is taking this country, here's what I think and what I believe the American people want us to do. They want us to end a corrupt campaign finance system. Well, golly gee, I didn't hear Mr. Trump talk about that tonight. A corrupt campaign finance system which allows a handful of billionaires to buy elections. It is beyond crazy that someone like Elon Musk can contribute over $270 million to help get Trump elected, and then he gets to run the government. It is absurd that any member of Congress who stands up to Netanyahu's brutal war in Gaza can expect to be opposed by millions of dollars in campaign contributions coming from AIPAC. The American people want us to end this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision and move to the public funding of elections. Democracy is supposed to be about one person, one vote, not billionaires buying the political candidates of their choice. And further, no, we should not be giving tax breaks to billionaires. That's not what we should be doing. We must demand that the wealthiest people in this country start paying their fair share of taxes. We must raise the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour to a living wage of at least $17 an hour. We must make it easier for workers to join trade unions, grow the union movement, and prevent corporations from violating labor laws with impunity by passing the PRO Act, legislation that I will be introducing tomorrow. No, we are not going to cut Social Security. Quite the contrary. We must expand Social Security benefits and extend its solvency for the next 75 years by scrapping the cap that allows a billionaire to pay the same amount into Social Security as a truck driver. Too many of our seniors are hurting today for us to be talking about cutting Social Security. Over 20% seniors in this country living on $15,000 a year or less. Further, instead of making massive cuts to Medicaid, we must join every other major country in guaranteeing health care to all of our people through a Medicare for All single-payer program. We must also take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry, get them to charge us what they charge other countries, reducing prescription drug prices by 50%. And at a time of a terrible housing crisis in Vermont and in every area of our country, we must build at least 4 million units of low-income and affordable housing, stop corporate landlords from jacking up rent prices, and establish a cap on rent. In a competitive global economy, we need the best educated workforce in the world. All of our young people must have the ability to get a higher education by making public colleges, trade schools, and universities tuition-free and canceling student debt. Yes, we can create millions of good-paying jobs by combating climate change and moving our energy system away from fossil fuels and into sustainable energy. You know, I heard a lot of talk about freedom tonight from Mr. Trump. Well, in a free society, we must absolutely guarantee that it is the women of America who control their own bodies, not the local, state, or federal governments. Now, I know, because I've heard from many of you, that there are a lot of people out there who are feeling angry and frustrated at what's going on here in Washington, D.C. And some of you may feel a bit hopeless. So let me say this. At this particular moment in history, despair is not an option. Giving up is not acceptable. And none of us have the privilege of hiding under the covers. The stakes are just too high. Let us never forget, real change only occurs when ordinary people stand up by the millions against oppression and injustice and fight back. That is the history of the founding of our nation, when brave men and women took on the mighty, invincible British Empire. It is the history of the abolitionist movement, the history of the labor movement, the history of the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the environmental movement, and the gay rights movement. Yes, I know. The oligarchs are enormously powerful. I deal with them every day. I know that. Yes, they have endless amounts of money. Yes, they control our economy, and they own much of the media. They have enormous influence over our political system. But from the bottom of my heart, I am convinced that they can be beaten. If we stand together and not let them divide us up by the color of our skin, or where we were born, or our religion, or the language we speak, or our sexual orientation. If we bring our people together around an agenda that works for the many and not just the few, there is nothing in the world that can stop us. We can win. We will win. Let us go forward together.
Just a perfect response, and I wanted to pick a couple of clips throughout the entirety of the speech. I thought those were perfect. And I mentioned earlier on in this video that I was on Capitol Hill speaking with Jasmine Crockett, Elizabeth Warren, Jim McGovern, Jamie Raskin Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and I will have all of those clips and videos to come throughout the rest of the day. Like I said, a lot of lies in that speech. We were calling them out. We were combating them. And if you want to help boost this video and you enjoy, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments or just say hi. Thank you for your support. And until next time, I'll see you soon.